This entire situation annoys me. So I don't know how many of you guys in the chat know about the whole situation with Wilbur Soot and Shovel. To make the long story short, basically, Shovel accused Wilbur Soot of biting her against her will. Basically, that's generally, I think, the most succinct way to put it. And she came out with this public statement. She did a whole stream, I think a couple streams, talking about the whole situation, giving some other tangential details. But the one thing I was missing was proof. So she came up with these allegations, claimed that he did all these things or whatever, bit her hard without her permission, and that was the accusation. And so people kind of waited for Wilbur Soot's response. Wilbur Soot did put out a response basically saying, she feels the way she feels, which is fine, but I didn't abuse her or anything. And then this basically the responses from the two parties. But the strange thing to me is how unhinged some of the reactions have been. Now, some of this, of course, is normal because Twitter people are gonna Twitter, right? Like they're gonna have out of proportion responses to things. They're going to screech at people and call people all sorts of bad names. But the sad thing to me is seeing many people in the Dream Team community do the same thing. I think the most prominent ones are AIMZ and Tubbo. They went and had these like very drastic and like extremely emotional, borderline unhinged reactions to this whole situation, like shouting into the SM7B, talking about how they already know that Wilbur Soot is an abuser. And to be fair to them, right? To be fair to them, they actually know Wilbur to some degree, as I understand it. Now, I don't know if they've actually seen proof. So that's like one thing. But they're like going out extremely vocally, calling Wilbur Soot, some sort of abuser. And the tough thing is, there isn't really any evidence of that. Now, maybe it's possible that, they saw some evidence and they were like, yeah, the dude is an abuser. But to me, a couple things. First of all, is like, outside observers, it doesn't make sense for us to sort of like pick a side if there's no, if there's no evidence. And even if you do decide to pick a side and you're just like, hey, it's my opinion, I think that this person did this, you can't then go blast somebody else for, for taking a different side when there isn't really much evidence supporting your own side to begin with, right? Like, so there's levels to this. There's levels to this. But even if there was some evidence behind the scenes that like Shovel gave Tubbo and AIMZ or whatever, this is not necessarily their story to tell, right? Like I feel like you can't speak as authoritatively about the situation if there isn't as much like public evidence. You can if you have like confidential stuff, I mean, I guess you could gotta say, "Ooh, I've seen some things that indicate such and such," but Tubbo, I think, said if you don't believe Shovel, then unfollow him. Which, to be fair, is like, considering how much public like evidence is out there. Like I have a Twitch and I follow Tubbo. I'm low key of thinking about following him just because of how cringe that statement is, right? I have no obligation to agree with some random streamer just because they say I should, right? I literally don't. It's kind of an absurd assumption and an absurd take to have. But I mean, this is not uncommon or out of character for these folks. Unfortunately, I actually did a video about the community recently because Tubbo had a similarly emotional reaction to Sapnap joining Kick. Sapnap is another member of the Dream Team. I don't know if he's like super well connected with the Dream Team, but he's another member of the Dream Team who he got a big bag. He started streaming on Kick, and instead of being happy for his so-called friend, making lots of money, basically hitting the jackpot as best as you can as a streamer, kind of in a similar way to how Ninja joined Mixer. He started raging on a stream for like 30-40 minutes talking about how he's like putting the lives of his queer viewers and black viewers and Jewish viewers and like female viewers in like mortal danger because his chat is going to be on the same website as like Aiden Ross's chat or something, which is like super weird. And I've talked about the whole situation, so I need to go off about that situation, in depth. But this is just strange behavior. Now, also to be fair to the Dream Team people, they're like pretty young, so I mean they could certainly be like forgiven for some immaturity. But just like for me, as a very casual viewer who like is not parasocial. I'm just looking at the outside from the outside in at this whole scenario, and I'm like, y'all are weird. Why are you calling people names for not believing something when there's no evidence for it? You know? Why are you telling entire people to leave your community just because they don't believe something some random streamer says? Like, I haven't heard any reason to believe Shubble over Wilbur necessarily. Now, another thing that's super weird too is that I've seen some people on Twitter going like, "Oh, well, Wilbur admitted to everything that Shubble said." No, he did not. He actually literally said like everything was consensual, and Shubble said no. So like, that's a literal disagreement. I don't know if you can get any farther away than that, except for saying like no contact happened at all, which is not what any people are arguing. But anyways, the general point of this video is just like, don't just leap and jump to conclusions. Don't believe something that someone says just because they say it out loud. Because someone could be lying to you. Now, they could also be telling the truth. You don't know that, which is why it's best to maybe not make these snap judgments. Maybe not just go along with the flow, even if everyone else is all like, "Oh, let's burn this dude at the stake," Maybe you shouldn't do that if you don't have the sufficient evidence. So yeah, I mean, hopefully there's some sort of conclusive evidence either way, because I think that'd be very helpful. Because I also hate seeing the firestorm of like, particularly it's the Dream Team viewers, but I'm seeing a lot of people just going at each other's throats on the internet, and it's just awful to see. Like, I don't know, maybe just wait for the evidence and then, use that ire in a more positive way. But I mean, most of y'all are kids. Like most of the viewers are kids, most of the streamers are kids. So like, I kind of don't blame you guys for going at it, because again, like, immature people are gonna behave immaturely. That's just how it be. That's just how it be. I mean, and also to be fair, Shubble's like 30, and Shubble's like her stream seemed reasonable. I don't know if she's telling the truth or not, but like it was very calm and reasonable. Wilbur Soot's response was also calm and reasonable. So it's like the people directly involved are kind of being relatively mature in this whole situation. It's just like all of the fans and the streamers in the same communities are just like having these like wild, insane responses. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, these are like the little Zoomer, Minecraft Dream Team crew. Like, that explains all of it. So